Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom number 7, Paleotrex. At least that's how I'm assuming you pronounce it. That's what I'm going with. Paleotrex is the first of the Deluxe class Fossilizers, which are Transformers that turn into some sort of fossilized dinosaur-type creature, and then can break down very weaponizer style to be added on to other Generation 1 type characters. As far as I know, there aren't any Beast Wars characters compatible with these guys, so you're going to get this interesting mix of mechanical and organic details when you combine them together. It's an odd choice. I thought for sure they'd combine with Beast Wars characters, but oh well. And Paleotrex, like so far all of the Fossilizers, is a Predacon. I'm not sure if that's going to hold true throughout the entire line. It's kind of weird that they're all Predacons, but okay. But anyway, if you see my reviews, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Paleotrex's packaging. Then we'll open it up. We'll see the Reveal Your Fate card. We'll see the instructions. And then we'll see Paleotrex himself, herself, themself. I'm not sure. I think it's a him. We'll see himself in the Beast and Robot modes, as well as the Fossilizer / Weaponizer type, arm up modes. Do some group shots and comparisons and stuff today. And then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Paleotrex comes in your standard Kingdom Deluxe packaging. See, you got a little half window here. We can see the toy inside, just mostly the face and chest and shoulders. You get this nice bit of artwork here of Paleotrex charging forward in both robot and beast modes. You see the Nemesis crash in the side of, I think it's a mountain over there. You got some sort of viney stuff going on here, some foliage. And yeah, not too much going on. On the top of the box, you get your Predacon symbol on the peg flap. Get the cave drawing version here. Pretty neat. Predacon. Bringing me back, guys. And then over here, you get renders of Paleotrex in the Beast and Robot modes, as well as the breakdown into component parts, and then a weaponizing with Warpath, which is an interesting choice because he's an Autobot. But at the same time, there aren't any Deluxe Decepticons in this first wave. If at all, honestly, I'm not sure. So again, it is weird that all of the Fossilizers are Predacons because there are just way more compatible good guy characters in this line than bad ones. I don't know. It's weird to me. We know at least 2 of them were apparently canceled. One was going to be a Smilodon, like a saber-toothed tiger. And I wonder if that was probably going to be a Maximal, I bet. So I think they canceled any Maximals that were coming, which is absolutely a shame. And then over here, you just get your standard Kingdom side panel. Okay, we got our Fate Reveal card here. And it's another Black Arachnia. Now, this has me worried, because if you guys saw my Warpath review, you saw that Warpath came with a second Dinobot card, which ended up being the exact same thing that came with the Black Arachnia toy. So I'm a little worried. We already got the Black Arachnia card with Cheetor, and I'm really hoping this has a different fate on it, and I'm going to feel very cheated. But here we go. The close-up portrait, all nice and shiny here. Go ahead and peel it back. It's the same thing. It's the same one. Becomes a Maximal. That's just not cool, man. I am 2 for 4 with the cards. 2 repeats. Oh, that's really disappointing. Oh well. Now we get Paleotrex's instructions. And you can see the render here on the front. Predacon symbol there. And then we get straight into the transformation from robot to beast mode. So that's cool. It's like a fossilized velociraptor. And then we get the breakdown of the beast mode into component parts used for weaponizing. And we get 2 different weaponizer configurations. And unlike back in Siege, they don't give them specific names. So you have this one where basically becomes an axe, some little back-mounted claws, and a jaw weapon or shield. And then over here you get something kind of similar, but you get a sword, little dino feet, height boosters, which are really silly looking, and then back-mounted cannons with a little shield. So, you know, overall, they're different enough. You're going to see that these feet don't work for Warpath very well because of where the hole's situated on his feet. Now we get Paleotrex in his beast mode, or fossil mode, or skeleton mode, whatever you want to call it. And you can see very much modeled after what we perceived for a long time to be, you know, velociraptors. Though the skeleton doesn't quite match up. But you can see it actually comes together very well. Ends up looking like quite a good skeletal dinosaur. I dig it. Everything lines up quite well. You get some oddities, you know, you get like pegs sticking out of the ribcage and all that, but overall it really works. You get kind of this breastbone shield with the Predacon symbol on it. Get this wishbone style bone running along the pelvic region. The legs are multi-jointed, so you can go back and forth, in and out. You get like a knee swivel here, which is cool. Knees bend. You get an ankle swivel. Rocks. So very posable legs. Oop, those will come off pretty easily. Very posable legs. The tail wags up and down, so that's cool. The little dino arms are in ball joints, so they get a pretty full range of motion. The head can tilt back a bit, but you kind of create this gap here that looks kind of unnatural. The jaw can open and close, which is cool. And the head itself can't really move because you got the robot head kind of plugged into it. I mean, you can pull this down a bit, but then you're exposing the robot head, so it would look kind of weird. But overall, the beast mode comes together very well. It makes a very convincing skeletal dinosaur. So here we have a group shot with a core class fossilizer. This is the Predacon Vertebrae. And unlike the Deluxe class one, she doesn't actually break down into armor or anything. She just has a dino mode and robot mode. But they do work really well together. They both capture that same aesthetic. I will say that Vertebrae's colors are much more realistic to what a fossil actually looks like when we dig it out of rock. But at the same time, it would be kind of boring if all the fossilizers were the same color. You know, they gotta kind of keep the same earthy tones, but get different color palettes, otherwise they look very samey. So even though she looks more like fresh bone rather than the fossilized remains of bones, she still works with the overall theme and, you know, kind of helps her details pop a little more with the lighter colors. Okay, now we're going to break Paleotrex down into his component parts. So the first thing you do, move this little breastbone piece here. Straighten these legs out. Get everything nice and straight. And just start pulling the legs apart. Gonna come off here at this joint. Like so. Oh, I already pulled that one off. There you go. So breaking the legs into two pieces. Just setting them aside. And we're gonna open up the rib cage. So we're gonna pull these open. Like so. We are going to bend these dino arms kind of flat against the ribcage area and kind of flip them backwards in relation to the pelvic piece here, like so. Set that aside. Pull all this apart. 3 different pieces here. And a little dino head. Straighten this out. Kind of pull the dino head down a bit to pull this mace / robot head out. You can see it's very much designed after Optimus Primal's skull mace from the original toy line, which makes the fact that this is a Predacon all the stranger. I don't know why they went that route with it. And yeah, I mean, you can still have them wield it all you want, but it's going to be weird having them team up with a Predacon. So you just kind of straighten this all out, set it aside. So this is what we get, a big old pile of dino bones. All right, let's go ahead and put this guy in his first weaponizer mode. So you want to grab the little pelvic piece here, and you're basically going to reassemble the legs. So you take your little upper leg pieces here. You're going to attach them with these little nubs kind of pointing back. So this is going to be the back of it, facing out that way. So again, like that. And you take the feet or claws, whatever you want to call them. You're going to plug them back into here. Like so. Kind of nice and straight. Alright. So you got that. I'm just going to bend them forward on this joint here. And then bend them forward again. So you got kind of like a double jointedness going on. Pretty cool looking. Set that aside. Then you're going to make an axe basically by reassembling the spinal column. So a little redundant. You want it to where the kind of side pegs on the spinal column are toward the bottom, that the frilled bit is facing toward the blade of the axe. Line up the bottom part like so. And there's all that. All right, let's clear a path a little bit, and we are going to bring in our cross-factional weaponizing partner, Warpath, because he's what they use in the pictures, so he's guaranteed to work with this. So the first things we're going to do, we're going to take the skull mace, put it in this hand. Now in the renders, Warpath's shield isn't attached because it can kind of get in the way of things, but I'm going to try to leave it on. So we take the dino head, we use this peg to plug into the wrist, like so. Works out pretty well. Then we're going to use the breastbone thing, plug it into the other forearm, become a little mini shield. Big old bony axe of death. And then we're going to take the little claw backpack thing, plug it right into his back. Like so. Go ahead, adjust the camera. And now we'll go make whatever little tweaks we need to get this looking nice. And yeah, that's pretty much what we get. And it's a very stable mode, which is good. Warpath being rather squat, not very top heavy, kind of helps him balance with the added weight all over him. And, it works. It's a little bizarre, again, because the mixed aesthetic of it all, where you got a very mechanical robot being armed up with, which looks like, organic bones. Kind of strange, but that's what they're doing. The axe, I think, works out quite well. Very convincing for a large axe weapon. The little claw head thing hanging off, I think, looks a little silly. I think they just kind of put it there because it needs to go somewhere. Skull mace is, of course, very cool since it's designed after primals. And then the back-mounted claws they're a neat little effect because, you can use them in like a melee combat situation to get extra reach and stuff and just have an extra set of arms. Now, one thing I want to point out is that Warpath, I think there's a reason they chose him specifically to show this off. You can see these thighs kind of create a clearance issue, and for him it's okay because his back tapers in. There's not a lot of surface area, right where this plugs in, so it works for him. But I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of compatibility issues with other figures that have, much wider backs or have any kind of back kibble that might protrude out. This probably isn't going to line up very well. And that is the problem with weaponizers is, it's not like they go and test the designs on like every single War for Cybertron figure out there. So they're not always going to work out perfectly, and there may be some elements of different weaponizer modes that you can't utilize with certain partners. So just something to keep in mind, but at least in Warpath's case, it works out quite well. Now, hopefully we'll be getting, some Decepticons here soon so that we can actually line these guys up with, appropriate faction members. So Decepticons, Predacons, though the Predacons probably won't be built to accommodate the weaponizer. So just some things to keep in mind. All right, I'm going to go ahead and break this guy back down, and then we're going to do the other weaponizing mode. All right, we've got our little dino bones back into pieces here. So the first thing we're going to do is put the big sword together. So let's do that. We're going to take the skull and roll this up to where the chin here plugs into this peg. So get a nice nice and compact like that. And we're taking the little breastbone piece, plugging it in like so. Take backbone, get it like this. Actually, turn around like that. And then you're taking tail tip. So you get this, just get a big old sword. I'm gonna set that aside. Now the leg bits, we're gonna partially reassemble here. Take your like pelvic region area thing. You're gonna take these upper legs and you want to attach them in a way to where these little bone spur things, or we're gonna call them, are pointing outward. So let's do that. And flip it up. Bend these like straight up, like so. And you know, it's interesting, they got these flip out pegs on here. They're never actually used in any of the official modes. In fact, I can't really get them out. But they are in there and you can swing them out. They're not used for anything in the instructions though, so I guess it's just maybe a dropped mode or just to give us more options, I'm not sure. Then we're gonna take our robot feet, straighten the feet back out, swing the ankles pretty much all the way forward, and then swing these little pegs up like this. Same thing here. All right, these are gonna become like little platform shoes. So we're gonna take Warpath, we're gonna plug these into the bottoms of his feet. And again, it's kind of an issue because the holes in his feet are so far back that the weight distribution's kind of all jacked up now. So you're gonna have him kind of leaning back a bit just to balance out, which is kind of annoying. I don't know why they decided to make it go this way. I guess in theory, if you want to, you could like reverse these, do it this way, though that might be a little too far to the front now. So kind of a lose-lose, and it just really comes down to where the 5mm ports on Warpath's feet are located. Other figures that have them more centered will benefit from this a lot better. So just be aware of that. It is a potential issue with weight distribution. Now let's go ahead. We're gonna attach that little chest plate thing back as a shield, just like in the other mode. Let's plug his back-mounted cannons in. This. Get them all straightened out. Do what you gotta do here. They look pretty nice. And now for the big sword thing, it's like a two-part setup, and the instructions don't seem to take real life spatial problems into account as far as clearance, because all right, you take the mace weapon thing, you slide it in, you know, underhanded here, but you can only go about yay far with it before he hits the arm kibble. The instructions will tell you to slide it all the way up, and you really can't. So just be aware of that limitation. Then you take your dino sword thing, you want the skull facing outward, and you use this port, plug it in the handle on the mace, so you create this like large hilt for the very large sword. And yeah, here we go, get them all posed up. This giant buster sword looking thing. And it's interesting, this is definitely a very unique weapon mode, and I kind of dig it. Again, there's a really big weight distribution problem with this that you may be able to mitigate by repositioning the dino legs, maybe if you put them straight up. Of course, then it's like he's walking on stilts. It's gonna make him really tall and, you know, prone to falling over. So, you know, I think that's a fatal flaw with this mode. If he had the holes in his feet better positioned, I think this would work a lot better. But you can pose him in ways like this to where everything between the dino feet and the big sword balance each other out. I think overall I like the other mode a lot more. It's more cohesive looking. Now the sword on this is pretty cool, and you can get kind of a halfway between the two modes if you take the dino feet off and reattach them up here, if you want to do that. I could see that working out a lot better, honestly. But that's going to be up to your personal preference. Alright, now finally we are going to assemble the robot mode. So I've gone and broken him back down into his components. And let's start getting him put together as a robot. So You're going to grab his kind of thigh and pelvic area. You're going to rotate these things forward to where you got this peg pointing up now. And then you're going to take these leg bone looking things. You want to swing this little bony structure back to become a heel spur. And you're just plugging it in like so. So do the same thing on the other side. Like this. And you can go ahead and stand it up. Start building the body structure. Next, we're going to take this dino head area. We're going to swing it back down like we did for the last weaponizer mode. Plug the chin in. And you're going to stack it right on top. Like so. Let's do the arms. So you're going to take your little wishbone looking area here. You're going to plug it in on this side. That becomes one of his arms there. And you're taking this, plug it in on the other side, like so. Then you're going to take his dino feet. And I recommend attaching them in a way to where like the smaller little pins are facing outward. Just my personal choice there, I guess. So you just plug them into these. Rotate the wrist if you want to, you know, kind of pose them up a bit. Same thing here. All right, so we got most of the way put together. Now we're gonna take his breastplate, plug it in right in the front, nice and even. And then the mace is just gonna slide straight down in this hole to become the head. Now, honestly, they could have left it just like this, and I think the toy would have been fine. It just makes for a very cool looking head, very, very menacing, you know, monstrous even. However, this whole skull face does actually flip up to become kind of a battle helmet. So you just flip it straight up, and you get this more alien looking face underneath. So it's really neat because it adds to the playability, and it doesn't hurt anything. You can choose to leave it up or down. And in a fun little way, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it kind of mimics the mutant head feature of the early Beast Wars toys, right? Where they had some sort of a organic beast-like head that would kind of, you know, flip down or fold over the regular robot mode head. So this kind of gives you the option to go two ways in a very similar vein, whether it's intentional or not. You know, that similarity is pretty striking. And lastly, you just want to give him his tail tip as like a little sword weapon. So you just plug it in here. And there you go. This is Paleotrex in his robot mode. And I like it for the most part. It's very unique, very alien looking. As far as posability, it does pretty much everything you'd want him to. The head can turn a full 360. Can even look up and down a little bit because of the hinge it's on. He's got a waist swivel. He's got universal shoulders. Has bicep swivel, wrist swivel, bending elbows. Got the hips that are universal. Knee bends, thigh swivel. The one thing he really doesn't have is ankle tilt. Unfortunately, they didn't engineer these to actually like tilt inward at all. So he is one of the very few War for Cybertron characters, especially at the deluxe price point or higher, that lacks ankle tilt, like completely. So that will limit him on posability a little bit. Now, instead of ankle tilt, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, he does have this bend like in his shins, which makes for a very alien-looking way of getting the ankle tilt, but maybe it's intentional. Maybe he's supposed to be bizarre-looking like that? Not really sure. So you can utilize that as an ankle tilt if you want, but it won't look very natural. Kind of breaks the whole humanoid features. Though, with his freakishly long arms and alien face, I'm not sure how humanoid he really looked in the first place. But he's cool. He's something unique. And, you know, it's an aesthetic that I think really only works because he is a fossilizer, because he is supposed to be this, like, skeletal monstrosity. It'd be really weird for a regular-looking robot mode, but overall I dig it. I think it works really well. The fact that he gets the breastplate up front with the Predacon symbol, you know, just helps identify who he is. And overall, I think it's a good start to this whole fossilizer concept. And before we wrap this up, I'm going to do one more quick group shot with his little buddy Vertebrae. And you can see, you know, a lot of similarities here. They both use a tail sword weapon in the robot mode. And their browns actually, like the dark browns, actually match up quite well. So they do look like they're from the same toy line, from the same team even. I like it. I really like the way this is turning out so far. There's only one other Fossilizer that's been revealed so far. It's the Triceratops looking one. There are more rumored to be on the way, but there are also some that have seemingly been canceled. So I'm not sure how many more we're getting. I'd imagine at least 2 more Fossilizers before the toy line ends. And then there is the rumored Transmutate, which is supposedly actually coming from this guy. So that'll be interesting. I'm not sure how much I'm going to like that. I mean, it's always nice to get that shout out, but it's just really not going to match how Transmutate's supposed to look. Like, the only thing they're going to have in common is that they have very bizarre proportions and are very alien looking. That's about it. So, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they're going to reconfigure this guy in a certain way to make him look better for that modes, or I don't know. We're just going to have to see how that plays out, because right now I have a really hard time picturing it, to be honest. But we shall see. We shall see. Maybe they'll surprise us. So, yeah, final thoughts on this toy. I like everything about him. The Dino mode is probably the most well put together looking mode out of all of them. It really looks like a raptor skeleton, which is great. The weaponizer modes are decent in my opinion. I still feel that the execution for those, height boosting dino feet, it's not going to work very well for a lot of toys. But that's really the only thing I didn't like about those modes. And then the robot mode is fun too, because it's very unique, very interesting, and it is stable despite the lack of ankle tilt. It does stand up very well. It's not too top heavy. It really works. And the whole intentional or unintentional mutant head feature just really helps out too. Let's also not forget that his head was designed to be Optimus Primal's battle mace. So there is always that, and I can't wait to show that off when, Primal eventually shows up one day. Not sure when they're actually going to be dropping those Voyagers, but I'll be on top of that. So now that I've said my part, I want to know what you all think of Paleotrex. Do you think he's a good first look at the Fossilizer concept? Do you like the way the modes work out? Would you have preferred it being a different way, or are you just overall happy with it? Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. And thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Paleotrex. And with all that said, I will see you next time.